So this is episode number 4 of Remo's podcast. I'm here with Eerik, and obviously I'm Remo. So
I'm Eerik.
Yeah, hello. So what are we going to talk about?
We are going to talk when the rules are just. So eternal question, laws and justice, rules and justice, are they always just?
So truth and justice, right?
Truth and justice, tõde ja õigus, like we say in Estonian, our most important book probably through the centuries.
So what is this book about?
It's written by probably the best known Estonian writer Anton Hansen Tammsaare, and it depicts Estonian history through the life of one family. From the middle of 19th century, when we first started to be owners of our land, owners of our farms, till the early 20s, so when Estonia was already independent republic, and how one family actually transformed, what kind of different social developments we had. And it's a mandatory book in Estonian education system, I think in a grade 10 or 11. And it depicts, I think, positive and negative part of our social development. What kind of society we used to be 150 years ago, and how our thinking was changed through 3 generations, which are described in this book.
And in reality, nothing changed.
No, that would be maybe very brave statement that nothing has changed since last 150 or 100 years. But I agree, eternal questions. Mm-hmm. What kind of decisions I have to make in one or another difficult situation, are they justified? Are they just legal according to the rules, or they also feels just to me? And now we come back again to this leadership issue, because every decision I make has to be, of course, according to the law, but at the same time I have to think, well, if I use my right, what will be the influence of using it or not using it?
And I think very good example of that is the case what we talked previously. It was about the Estonian starting story, the reindependence, and when the new government came in and they had 70 tons of rubles in the basement. Well, based on the law, what they did is that pretty much in a short term, what it was that they had money which they had to exchange or give back to Soviet Union.
Russia, Federation this time, yes.
And then Russia was delaying it to whatever strategical political reasons, which meant that they had a load of money which they couldn't utilize in any way or form.
And which was actually losing their value every, not even month, but every day and probably every hour. So you had to get rid of it.
Yeah, and then they pretty much decided to figure out a way how to kind of exchange it. And they eventually did it and exchanged it with Chechenian rebels, and they got back dollars. So it really doesn't make sense in terms of how government is supposed to be run in that sense. So, I mean, the truth about it is that everyone understands, but it wasn't based on the right, SOPs or procedures or the laws. But in reality, both sides, like everyone kind of who looks at it understands
the reason behind
it and why they had to make it. So, and eventually they got, what's the word? They were sent, or there is this secret police who eventually started a case or opened the case, right?
Yeah, Estonian Internal Security Service and the prosecutor office started a case, by the way, 2 years later. Mm-hmm. And the accusation was very formal. It was breaking the official rules of exchanging foreign currency, which is a pretty bureaucratic approach. Again, I'm not trying to say that you don't have to follow the SOPs, but I also have to say that I was really positively, not surprised, but I really appreciate that the Supreme Court said that they took into the consideration all the environment and why those rules are created. So they actually interpreted not only what was wrong, but what was behind this decision. So this subjective part, what you always have to take into the consideration. And how often we in Estonia, even today, hear, oh, it's not just. Yeah, it might be legal, but it's not just. See ei ole õiglane, like we say in Estonia. And then I always keep asking myself that, okay, but we try to create rules which are just for the most of the people, which they understand why we have created. Otherwise, it's no point to make them. The same within the military service. We create certain activities, we create certain SOPs to keep up the discipline, to keep up our fighting ability, because of. We are not creating because it's just fun to have tons of SOPs, but sometimes I think both of us have seen in our careers that there are certain rules, certain SOPs, which are first of all not up to time. And we sometimes ask ourselves that, wait a minute, why do we have this regulation? And how often you have heard, nii on alati olnud, it has always been so. Have you heard this expression probably?
Absolutely, yeah. I was like thinking in terms of those words, like that's the truth, which kind of reflects to me or defines it. Those are the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And then justice is kind of also based on our values, our understanding of the environment. So the rules can be like that, and you can break a rule, while it could be a justified action based on that situation, between what options you had. And is it like it's a right or wrong behavior? So it's truth, which is the facts. Justice is something, how would you define justice?
As a lawyer, I would define justice that it's according so-called SOP, which is the law, the legal act is actually SOP. It's nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone has to understand the law, it's actually a form of feedback. Do I understand that stealing stuff from a shop is forbidden? Do you understand that? Yes, I understand. That's a theft. Fine. But what is just for you and me? It actually depends quite a lot of my social standards, moral understanding, life experience, and situation. I'm very glad that you brought up that sometimes breaking the rule is justified. Thanks God, Estonian law actually says that if you have to break a rule to avoid more dangerous outcome. For example, I see that a small child, I don't know, toddler is left alone in the car, the baby is alone in the car, and this plus 35 degrees Celsius outside. And now I break the window of someone's car. Breaking a window of someone's car, it's definitely against the law. But at the same time, I try to save this baby by bringing the fresh air in. So it's not against the law. It is justified act.
Yeah.
Or I see burning house. Of course, I will go break into this burning house and trying to save people outside of there. It is etc. etc.
So the debates are most likely then about how to figure out the right justification for whatever action, and that's what lawyers do, right? Then.
Not only lawyers, we actually do it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because let's little bit step down from this more dramatic situation.
Yeah.
And I have an important meeting. Fine. And due to my bad organizing time, I'm late. But it's really important, and I know that all the people are waiting. And now instead of driving 70 kilometers per hour, I drive 90. I know it's dangerous, especially now. It's icy and winter here in Tartu. But for me, it's very important value. So when police stops me, now I start to justify my action. And now this police officer is thinking, okay, wait a minute. I have possibility to punish this person or let him go and say, hey, that's a warning. Or I have to justify it for myself. This is just that I react in one or another way. Now, if I have the same situation, but I have a person who is hurt, for example, I know with a knife, a kid at home, and I'm driving I'm speeding to the hospital, probably situation is different. But where I draw the line that the breaking SOP is fine. And I think there is no black and white solution. Of course, the more severe the outcome or the more severe the act is, definitely the more SOPs applies when it comes to the robbery, when it comes to the murder. But again, if someone robs the shop of bread because children are starving at home, this Victor Hugo famous Oh yeah, shoot him. So Victor Hugo, Les Miserables. Yeah, is it just, or is it just to put this person for years into the prison? I don't know.
It's just no, at the moment I haven't given any input in any of those systems in general. Like I just was born here in Estonia. I in reality haven't provided any input into the laws. I have just agreed what there is, and that's pretty much what it is. So someone has figured it out along the time. So what it kind of means is that it's just an agreement between people.
Yes, of course.
There is a huge interpretation of words, definitions, and everything, and that's why I guess wording of a statement in law is so important. In the same way, like, okay, what kind of emails what kind of emails I'm sending to provide you a message? How do you interpret this word? So that's why, I don't know, I'm quite sure that some people, when they are, I don't know, let's say they are in trouble, then they start looking, okay, what words do I use? Which are the right words, which will show me from a certain view. So I don't shoot myself into the leg with just the wrong message or wrong words.
And now you have to again find this, it is again dichotomy, because on one hand, the law has to be written so simple that every reasonable person who is not expert in this field opens it and says, okay, I understand the SOP, I understand why it's like this. At the same time, there is no possibility that you can describe every situation. So you cannot describe every situation in the law, and that would be horrible society if we start to regulate our relations only based on legal acts. Wait a minute, I don't want to live in this world where it's only black and white. We have emotions, we are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it has to be clear and simple and concise. So to be maybe a little from the humorous prism, it's written in Bible, 10 rules. Don't steal, don't murder, etc., etc. So you don't need like a long list of something. But we are created so complex societies today with all this cyber and artificial intelligence and a lot of techniques around us and so on. So we are growing. So we need more complex rules. So where is the line that the SOP does not become too complex, but at the same time takes into the consideration that, hey, wait a minute, environment changed. Now we have a different legal branch as a cyber law, because we have to regulate something which happens in a cyberspace which we cannot touch, but it has direct impact on me. Is it just? Is it okay? Does everyone understand it on the same level like me? I don't know. I don't really know. But if person feels that this regulation is unjust toward him or her, it's highly likely that this person starts to break it. Why? Because he or she doesn't understand why it exists, why I have to follow it. I very much like one German professor of law, Eerik, who said that if you are a lawyer, so you have to express yourself in a simple form like a peasant, but you have to think like a philosopher. If it happens to be vice versa, that's, I think, the dangerous situation where all of your explanations are so complex, are so long, so specific that people starting to step back from it because it's not mine anymore. It's someone else. Where to find the balance?
And I mean, so it kind of has to be measurable. The justice system is something measurable. There's like, I don't know, you do this, you get 10 years. It's a measurable, like you stabbed someone, there is a measurable thing that you are able to understand that, hey, yes, there was a knife, that's the knife. There is a hole, it goes in there, it's measurable, it fits.
Yeah, and now the outcome is this person is, for example, dead.
Yes, exactly.
So I understand that was illegal, I understand that was an action, and that is a result.
Yes.
Very easy. But now when it comes to not the criminal justice, because most of the problems between people are not criminal, most of them we can get our desirable outcome in the way we want. Unfortunately, there are many, let's say, legal battles between divorced parents. Who can keep the child? Now, definitely, child is not an object. But the legal debates between angry ex-partners can be very much, I want to have him or her. This is my child. Oh, wait a minute. It's a living creature. A couple of months ago here in Estonia, we had, in a small country, social media goes sometimes very, very wild and viral. And two pretty well-known persons in Estonia had argument about a 9-year-old daughter. And it was a court decision that this daughter has to stay with the father. But mom decided not to fulfill this order and started to create different obstacles. Now, finally, representatives of the government went to take away the child and give it and pass it to the father. It was a very dramatic video. On one hand, you have execute this court order, because otherwise nobody can be sure, hey, wait a minute, court has decided something, but I cannot exercise my right. On the other hand, I cannot imagine if I'm this police officer there and I have to execute this order and say, hey, I take away now this girl and pass it to the father. So I can understand that's a legal act, that's a court decision. And now I start to think, and every person starts to think, was it just? From the father perspective, of course, because I want to be with my daughter. Even court said I'm a good parent. From the mom's perspective, wait a minute, you're taking away my child because I was not fulfilling certain criteria. The legal act is one. What is just, and Estonian society was very much divided. If we look on the comments, even the Chancellor of Justice and the ministers and the high-level politicians started to debate. By the way, none of them has been at the place when it happened. But everyone created something which is just in their understanding. Because it was tons of emotions. And now try to imagine that you are this government official who sees this crying child, screaming mom, and the dad who is saying, hey, wait a minute, I want to be with my daughter, please give her to me. Is it just a justice? Is it truth or justice? Because that's a fact, and where is the justice?
Yep, that's a difficult one. And I think in that specific case, there's so easy to
go to the tunnel.
Make assumptions based on the tunnels that you are presented some information, and now you're in echo chamber, because you didn't understand the whole picture.
And in this case, we have even to take in mind from the legal perspective, Estonian government or government representatives went to execute Portugal court decision because the court decision give the child back to father was made in Portugal because mom moved to the Portugal with the child. Father did not approve it, and that's why he said, I want to have the child back in Estonia. So can we imagine what the Portugal judge, not knowing anything what was going on in legal battles in Estonia, but also the judge is the only profession in Estonia where it's forbidden in law not to make a decision. The judge, it's against the law if a judge is not making a decision. You have to make a decision. It might be a wrong decision, it might be overruled, but you have to make it. So what kind of pressure it puts on you? You have tons of emotions, you lack of information, but you have to make a decision.
So another thing what I got to thinking, which is really interesting, is that let's say it is not okay to kill people, right? To shoot them.
In the war, again, it's a legal exception.
But even in if you think about it's not justified. I don't know if this kind of thing has existed. I only know that it has existed in communistic
regime,
yeah, or like with dictatorship. Let's put it like that. And when you sentence you to death, and then someone comes and kills you. So putting a syringe in you or putting you into electrocution chair, I'm literally taking life from you. I'm performing an act of taking life.
Yes.
Now you did it because you decided it, and it's against the rules of what we have in society. But now again, to put you to accomplish the actual eventual decision, I still have to kill you and take your life. So there's a like interesting dichotomy in that sense. Like if you put the person on the wall, like the person shot someone, and now the rule is that, hey, you will get punished death penalty through shooting. So the person eventually executing the order does the exact same act, just the intent is different. For one is that it's a punishment that we have agreed upon that we will serve to you. Another one is that they did it, I don't know, based on their own choice and against the other person's will.
That's why Estonian constitution said that it is not allowed to take anyone's life by emotions, meelevaldselt. Which means that the same war example or your execution example in the countries where they execute death penalty or they use death penalty, this person who actually pushes the button or shoots the person, he is not acting as a person. He or she is acting as a representative of law, which is also a dichotomy because you cannot take away emotions. And that's why I'm very happy that in European Union death penalty is not allowed, because it's a form of punishment which you can never turn back if something went wrong. But even if, so taking someone's freedom is against the law. If I think this man is a thief and I grab him and put it to my cellar and keep him or her there for, I don't know, 2 months, I will go to jail because it's illegally taking away someone's freedom. Now, when I'm a prison officer and I'm locking someone up for 2 months in the jail, I probably get paid, I am rewarded, I'm a well-respected person in the society. So again, in the legal system, we call it a monopoly of violence. So the state has a monopoly of violence, vägivalla monopol. I cannot create my own army. I cannot declare war on another state. Only state can do it. Only my nation can do it. But is it just? Yes, I think it's just because we agreed about this. But does all people understand that the punishment for certain, I don't know, crimes or misdemeanor, is it just? I think that is the place where emotions come. And that's why judge has a certain area of maneuver. You have from here to here. You can find the person, I don't know, from 1,000 euros to 100,000 euros, but you have to take into the consideration the case. Now, how you can take the case into consideration? I don't see any other options that only based on your life experience, education, emotions, values. You cannot exclude them because judge is a person. Mm-hmm. But now you have to decide of someone's life. Not even going to the punishment, but going again to decide who, for example, will get the heritage. Or in this dispute between the ex-partners, who will get the custody of child. I wouldn't like to be in the position where I have to decide mother, father, mother, father, mother, father. I think tons of emotions.
So yeah, I mean, this dichotomy of thing, it allows, like in the movie and in the book, the Truth and Justice, is like the one of the neighbors lets the other neighbor, like both neighbors kind of agree that, hey, they need to train a ditch to drain the area from moisture, right, or from water, so it could flow away. Now one neighbor kind of digs the hole, and then eventually the other neighbor, who is an asshole,
he has a different perspective, sir.
has a different perspective, and eventually says that, hey, this is actually on my land now. So the ditch that you actually did for me, it's on my land. Now I will decide what I will do with it. And the other person kind of can't say anything. And eventually this dude just, I don't know, blocks the water flow and does everything so that the other neighbor who actually needed it the most. So he started being like an asshole and being annoying and just fucking someone else's mind. So these laws can give this opportunity to nitpicky people who you can actually see, hey, they're just doing it because they're just playing with your emotions. Even though they are right based on the law, it is on your land.
It is on your land, but you cannot execute your right, which will damage another person's property.
Good.
So that will be, again, how much it must damage that it will turn illegal. Because if it's on my land, that I don't want this ditch on my land, when my right to use my property is higher value than your right not to be flooded by the water coming from my soil. And now you have to be this judge, because both are right. I have a right to live and use my land, but on the other hand, I have a right to close a ditch. So which value will be more important? And how many times in Estonia we have had debates? It's definitely my business what I'm doing in my garden. But if I start, for example, play music from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock in the evening, no, I'm not crossing this,
Yes.
but I do it so loud that you are going crazy on your land. But I said, wait a minute. No, I'm not playing it so loud that it will hurt your hearing. No, I'm not crossing this line. I just use my right every day, start it at 8 o'clock in the morning and turn it off at 10 o'clock in the evening. I just like this music.
I think we should go through at some point, try to translate Estonian working law, or what is it?
Working law? You mean labor law?
Labor law.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I think it would be interesting to see what's written there first of all, because I really don't have no idea. I haven't ever stand for my rights in front of because I mean I'm just going through life, executing. Don't care who is there to blame. I just need to go on and move on.
Which is 99% of people are doing anyway.
Absolutely. And then just understanding like what in reality, what is the rule and what is and how that is justified or not. That would be an interesting way of thinking. I like looking.
Yes, because who we are protecting more? Are we protecting entrepreneur? Because if we don't have enough entrepreneurs, we don't have workers to work, because they don't have a place to work, because people are different. At the same time, if we are not protecting them, we will create so unjust society, which is socially unstable, and it will harm, in the end, entrepreneurs' interests as well, because no one wants to run a business in a frustrated and unstable society. So where to find the balance? It's the same with taxes. We all understand we need to pay a certain amount of taxes to keep the society going. But if we cross certain this breaking point, and people start thinking, wait a minute, I'm not motivated anymore to do something, because everything when I put more input, they will take it away from me. And I don't anymore feel it's a part of my decision. So that's why this legal framework has to be felt as a just one. Otherwise, you will end up in a very bad situation. But okay, let's go back to this labor stuff. What do you mean by that? That we need to give an overview, or we need to discuss it?
It was just interesting.
Bring an example. What would be interesting to discuss?
So I mean, I think a lot of points. Like one is I mean, you can, because it comes down with, it's a lot about with values. So if I create my organization and I want elite workers, I want certain standard, then some of the standards may be super high. And now if we initially agree upon some of the, I don't know, we just agree that, hey, these are the values, but all of the values what we agree upon, there is so much room of defining them in different ways all the time, right? So every company has a value.
Of course.
Every country has a value. Every society has their own values, and there's so much interpretation of that. And now if we agree upon something, now it can't go against the law, and most of the values, or how are values interpreted inside the law, or how is that differentiation made? Like there's laws, it's written things, what we can't do, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Or what we can do. But how are values, like, I don't know, honesty, integrity, ownership, I don't know, whatever those values could be, how are those things considered within law?
I think in Estonia law, they are considered actually pretty well. First of all, if we start from hierarchy, and our constitution is like the basic SOP for all the other SOPs, it says that first of all, there is a prohibition of discrimination. So we cannot discriminate anyone based on religion, sex, age, social background, and some other aspects. But now, you mentioned that you want elite workers, for example, for your organization.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, by the way, can already feel it as a form of discrimination because, wait a minute, you want to have me like education of being a master in IT sciences, but I don't have it, you discriminate me. No, because I'm running IT company.
Mm-hmm.
That's my requirement. Now, when I say, hey, I want only young men from 20 to 29, that's a discrimination. Okay, it might be discrimination, but if at the same time I'm taking a people into the special operation forces, there is an age limitation. There is, because for obvious reason, I will start to invest into this person for years, and if he or she is close to 50, and I know he or she will retire before they can even start actually executing their education.
So we have to be able to define everything.
We have to justify it, first of all. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we can get too ridiculous. In many interpretations, by the way, it's forbidden to ask photograph on CV because you will create your first imagination. Is it okay? I don't know. Is it for example, in France, there is now also the situation where they cannot ask your address. You know why?
It shows you in which neighborhood you live.
In the United States, many people are ready to go into the legal battles during the divorce. Who can keep the post box office address, which is located in the better neighborhood?
Mm.
So, because it gives you better social status. Is it just? From my point of view, it's ridiculous. But for some people, it might define future steps. Is it a kind of a hidden form of discrimination? Of course. But how far we will dictate for the entrepreneur? For example, if you created Combat Ready, fine. Now, you say, I want to have only X S of F members. And by the way, I don't know, it depends very much on judge, who will say that will be the form of social background discrimination because maybe someone from Scouts Battalion or police force or whatever has the same skills. You have to test the skills. But me as an entrepreneur, maybe I want to create such a society. And if it's in sports, probably it's a little bit easier. Are you filling these criteria or not? Boom. Are you able to be then a professional skier? That's your, limitations. If you're not fulfilling them, unfortunately, will go away. But when it starts of pre-selection, I think, and that's my personal opinion, in certain form we have went too far. We have went too far because we see this possible injustice, possible discrimination in too broader sense, and it will start prevent people to make bold decisions. But that's only my opinion, sorry.
Yeah. So companies are pretty much cultures within cultures and rules within rules, and they can serve justice based on their thing, whatever they kind of agree upon, until it doesn't go against the law of the country they're in.
Sure, but again, you spoke with the values, which I think it's a core, it's a basement, it's like a pillar for every company, every organization. In the business law, when we have business together, there is a value description very well written in Estonian civil law that it has to be in a good faith. Heas usus.
Mm-hmm.
So if we understand that in our society there are certain moral principles coming from centuries, now we have to run our businesses in the good faith. Of course, we can end up in the court and I can say, hey, I describe or I understand good faith like this, but definitely cheating, lying to you, it's against the good faith. If I try to present that, hey, my company is excellent, and you start business with me, and then you realize after 6 months, wait a minute, they're close to bankruptcy, that's against the good faith. But do I have to reveal all my business secrets? No, because business secrets are mine. I create my own strategy. So where good faith and trust is more important than keeping my commercial secrets to me. And now you have to be a civil judge who will decide, wait a minute, was it against a good faith or not? But principles are written, you have to act in a good faith. You cannot execute your rights over the weaker part. So in a labor law, the worker is in most cases considered as a weaker part because you have like a more power, more money, more resources, and he or she applying for the job sometimes has to be, okay, no, I have no one else to go, I have to be satisfied.
On a power position.
They're not in a power position, but at the same time,
Less power, correct.
some countries are not using this understanding like minimum wage. And they justify it. Hey, wait a minute. If I agree, this person says his value is this, and we agreed on this, why I have to be dictated by law that there is a certain minimum criteria which I cannot go below? The opponent can say, hey, wait a minute. We want to have a minimum stability in our society. So that is really like a minimum requirement. The person will not live on the street. So on one way, it's a social value because Estonia is a country where state has to take care of you. So state creates the environment, creates the rules. But now me as entrepreneur say, hey, wait a minute, but this person is ready to work for 100 euros less than minimum requirement. Why we cannot agree? Why state interferes in our agreement?
And it's kind of like the same way, like if you have a child and they want to do something in the summer, like you want them to officially work, but you don't want to pay them the minimum wage. Probably there is a rule. I have no idea.
Yes, if it's a 12-year-old child and 13-year-old child, etc. Yeah, there are limitations, of course.
Yeah,
just strict ones.
So yeah, I mean, and there is also because the skill of a person and capabilities of people are so different. And I mean, from the entrepreneurial or business perspective, if a country raises the minimum wage, it is the small companies who lose because they have now higher, like it doesn't mean if a tax goes up and the minimum wage goes up, which means it already means like if it goes up for let's say randomly 10%, it straight away means that I have now 10% higher cost
of
my operations. And now how do I maintain that? I either raise my income, which just doesn't happen like that. Because if I'm just pair even, or I will just release some people because that will even it up. So, but if you're a huge company, you have a lot of resources, then they have much easier way. Yes, in general, they also have a higher cost, but they have such a vast amount. Like, I don't know, you take huge billion-dollar companies. Like, if they are also earning a lot of profit, they have a lot of machinery, they are able to, so eventually they will never die out. It's more likely that who dies out is a small business owner.
And that's why it's a dichotomy. You have to find balance that if you set certain criteria, you have to understand that, of course, if it's a hard times for society is our agreement, nation is our agreement. So we have to go through. And I'm actually a supporter of minimum wage because it keeps tax system clearer in a better position, because at least avoiding this in a tax sense will be difficult. But if you cross this breaking point and you start your small companies to die out, so you don't read the signs, then you eventually will have more problematic situation, because you need to invest more in social security, which means you need to take money for social security from somewhere. So again, every legal, every economical and political decision, it's nothing else than a leadership decision, which the most important here is not only cover and move or simplicity, which is very important, but it's a dichotomy, understanding of dichotomy. As a top leader, I have to understand the dichotomy. In legal system, especially if you are a judge, it's the most crucial thing. And if you are deciding the tax system of country, oh my God, I think that's a dichotomy highest level at all. Where is the right balance for the small entrepreneurs, middle entrepreneurs, big companies, and where people start to feel it as a just, whereas a teacher and the owner of the bank will say, hey, our tax system is just. In the most cases, people are complaining what most about the taxes. Doesn't matter who, the top level or low level, they always will do, because that will be the issue. Estonia, I think, has found, interestingly, a pretty good balance, because 95%, based on the latest research, of course, are not happy with paying taxes, but they are fulfilling the criteria. So they understand, okay, that's a requirement, I'm not happy about it, but I understand the why. Now, when we will drop on the 50%, I think we're going to be in a deep trouble, because half of society will not understand, they will not feel just. And that will be like an alarming sign. Dichotomy is not followed.
So it now, like, if I initially thought about the truth and justice, right? The truth.
You have to pay taxes.
Yeah. It's like also another way of putting it, which is making it like more interesting to me, is what is the right thing to do, and does it look justified from other people's perspective? Because let's say like our government thinks that, hey, we should have a defense tax, which allows us to get our military to be higher, like or more stronger, because there is war going on. They are understanding the bigger picture, and now it's from 2% to, for example, 4%, and it's a huge expenditure which has to come from somewhere. It's either that you reorganize your available budget, you take it away and put it somewhere. Now or you ask more from business owners and
taxpayers, yes, in general.
Taxpayers. Now, it might be the right thing to do, because that's what we have to do based on this information. That's the right thing to do.
That's a fact.
That's a fact, right? From based on this information, we decide that that's the right thing to do. We can agree. Now, the result and the feeling, what eventually we'll get is that if I'm the owner of a small company, now I will die out, I will go to bankruptcy, I may feel that I have been done injustice, even though I understand that it was the right thing to move, but the consequences to me are so vastly bad because war didn't come. Or the situation where I end up is even worse than war.
No, I disagree with the last statement as worse than war, because
like for that person individually, like if for example, I don't know, they die, they get depressed, they eventually whatever. Like this is extreme situation.
Okay, this is extreme, but of course we want to avoid war, because if it happens, all our businesses are gone, because the devastation will be huge. But I agree that this thin line, and again, that will be like a commander or leader decision, because you are touching a very, very sensitive thing. Because if my companies start to go out, wait a minute, how I will get enough resources to supply? And that's the agreement. If the society will go strongly against it inside emotionally, you will not get the payment, because people start to find the way, okay, how to avoid it. Now, understanding the bigger why, it's possible, like we all know, through the readback, and when it's really simple. But okay, tax system and the defense tax. Defense tax is definitely an emotional thing. But what I was thinking when you compared, when you described it, okay, but the war didn't come, which is a very good. So it's like, again, dichotomy. We want to invest in our defense budget, hoping, by the way, that we will not use it. It's like with a casco protection or casco insurance for our cars. We are paying for the new expensive car's casco. But we all hope that we will never use it, even if it's high.
Mm-hmm.
But we all pay in the case of. Now we think that which is cheaper. And I say, of course, it's cheaper to invest, but where is the line, the border, the frontier, the edge, what society can accept? We accepted from 2% years ago. Now 3 point something, very soon 4. Can we accept 5? I don't know. Can we accept 10? Before the World War II, yes, we did. Did it save us from devastation? No, because we did not use other options as well. Our cover and move with neighboring countries was bad, etc. We were delayed, and so on. And again, defense tax today, is it permanent? Will it change? Is it fixed 2% or will it be higher? How we explain it? Dichotomy.
I think even in US, I might be misinterpreting it. I think that they have had a tax like 90% to pay back something from the war.
After the war, yes.
Something like that for a period of time, and then eventually it goes away after the loans are paid back or whatever. And what I also got to thinking is like, it's an interesting thing. Like let's put this scenario and what your thoughts are. So, like there are companies that kind of take their company to a different country because they have a better taxation system. Like in US, like Florida has a different tax.
Delaware has a different.
And California has something else. So they move. Now, from a country perspective, like from Estonia, like there's like a lot of those things where they have offshore accounts and they transfer their money to I don't know, whatever the place is. Now, I mean, not paying taxes to your government, which in which society you live, is kind of clearly seems to me a wrong thing.
Unjust
activity.
But
like, I would say actually it's not like if you say right or wrong. I would say it's seems to me like a wrong thing that you should be investing in your own society. Now, can you justify that behavior? Because, for example, you have to choose like, hey, do I want to release 2 people? Because, I don't know, government raised tax for 5%. And now I find that in Latvia, there is a, 5% better opportunity, which means that I'm able to now kind of, create a company in Latvia, still run the business over here, but eventually I will be able to keep 5 more workers who are able to learn or who are able to provide a living to their family. I'm able to pay them the salaries just because I moved the organization to another country with a better tax system. I still will live here in Estonia. I still have operations going on here in Estonia. Now I just decided to go to a different country. So it could be like a justified thinking that, hey, I'm saving few people's works just because I moved to another country and do that thing. But in the face of society, I would say from my eyes, it's kind of wrong. You should still invest and maybe you cut the people and whatever. But everything is such a complicated dichotomy if you think about it, and it can be philosophical disaster to start digging the holes in there.
From the legal perspective, we want me to justify it. Of course, as an entrepreneur, I can choose where I keep my company. That's fine.
Yes.
Now, let's take one everyday example before we go to this business law. In Tallinn, there is a free transportation. So if you're a registered person living in Tallinn, you don't have to pay for a tram or bus ticket. You can have it for free. We have so-called the green card, not like the US green card, but a Tallinn green card. But many people living actually in the suburbs of Tallinn. Legally, it is not Tallinn anymore. It's a counties close. Saue, Saku, Kiili, whatever, like a suburbs. It's like a greater Tallinn area. Now they try to find the person who lives within city limits. They register as living there, but actually they're using infrastructure every day around Tallinn. They are using roads, they're using, all the facilities and stuff, but they're not paying taxes for the local commune because taxes are also staying in Tallinn because Tallinn needs money to pay for this free transportation. Now, is it justified that I have a house? I personally don't, but for example, if I have a house 5 kilometers outside of city limit, but my mom still lives in Tallinn, I officially register my post and all the other services at my mom's place. I have free transportation, I have different other social services provided by Tallinn, but I am actually burdened for this local community who has to pay for the street electricity, water supplies, street cleaning, etc., because I'm actually not paying taxes to my community. And that's a massive, it's not like a one example, it's a tens of thousands in Tallinn.
Mm-hmm.
And now coming to this business, people who get salary from my company, which headquarter is registered in Latvia, for example, because of taxes, are still buying the goods and still paying the income tax they're paying in Estonia. Yes, most of my work, most of my other duties are taken out from Estonia because of tax reasons. And now it's a dichotomy. In South Estonia, it has been a big debate that our timber industry, one of the biggest timber industries, decided to move the oil production to Latvia. Why? Because the legal requirements, how to buy timber from the free market, what is the industrial regulations, what are the tax regulations, are better in Latvia. But we are neighboring countries. It's actually the company physically maybe moves several, 10 dozens of kilometers. But Estonia will lose 700 million. At the same time, many people in Latvia will be quite happy about it. Latvia is a very important, close ally to us. Now, many of them will have relatives, or actually part of the work will still be in Estonia. I don't know. It's the same debate with the United States and China. So look on our clothes. We all know that this Nike, or Adidas, or whatever big brands, they are producing somewhere else, but they are running the headquarters where? In the United States, in Ireland, and so on. Where is my personal freedom of entrepreneur? I have a right to look for the better opportunities for me. There is nothing morally wrong about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when for me it starts to be morally wrong, where I'm starting to faking my real intention. When I'm playing, I'm doing good, but at the same time, I'm actually
deceiving.
Yep, I'm actually demanding everything from my government, saying you have to do. But when my government starts to ask, wait a minute, but how much you have actually invested? Like John Fitzgerald Kennedy, probably my favorite example of a political leader, asked his famous words in early 60s. So, my fellow citizens, don't ask what this country can do for you, but ask yourself what you have done for this country. Again, it's dichotomy. I cannot divide my life only for the state, because state is the agreement between us. But at the same time, I cannot only demand, you have to give me something.
Mm-hmm.
Practical food.
It has to be like a relationship.
It has to, exactly. So when we have a strong and good relationship, it doesn't mean we have to be like a lovers, but we have to have good relationship. Hey, our values are aligned.
And so it's about the cover and move. It goes very well with that, because
Exactly.
in a way, like what you should be doing, you should be covering for others first, so that they can start moving. And now, if some systems, most likely, because their people are so different. So if I move faster and I'm more capable, I will have more, resources. I have more time, I have more opportunity, I have more success, all of those kind of things. If I train more, I have better health, I can live longer. And now there is no way a country will be able to hey, we all move in the same speed because we are so indifferent. That's what socialism is.
It's even communism. They try to equal everyone.
Yeah, equal everything. Yeah, communism. Everyone's equal. Obviously, clearly that doesn't work. And now there will always some people who are going to be left really far away behind, and they feel unjust because other people are doing so good. And so cover and move really, if everyone for whatever reason would be covering first, then the team would win and you will win as well. If that would be the case, but that's not the case.
It's a dichotomy again, because 100% you cannot achieve situation where 100% of the society think the same way. It's
that's interesting. Again, interesting. I think which I heard from Joe Rogan. I think it was how many people you have to put together until someone kills someone? What do you think? What's the number? Is it 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 100 people? Like
I don't know. I've never heard about this comparison, but it depends how. If it's a very closed room and the situation gets worse and worse and worse, I think at certain point it can be only 10 also when it's just like, I don't know, several square meters. If it's a huge, I don't know, former factory, industrial building, probably it can
there's
be
like
more.
most likely there is like this optimal number. How big can be a city? How big can be a village? How big can be a country, which is like the optimal governance possibility where nobody will kill it, and then that's like the thing. Like let's say that's if you have 100 people, there will be one murderer. Let's random example. So now that 1% will ruin everything for the other 99. That 1% dude will ruin everything for other 99, because now if someone is a killer, there might be another one. And now what you will do? You will put on the rules because you never know. So it means that in every person there is 1% killer based on that data. If every person is 100, if out of 100 people, one person is a killer. Now, if we don't have recognized who that is, in some interpretation, it could be like every person has 1% of chance of being a killer. And now, obviously, if we take one out, then in the perfect world, now we don't have that killer anymore. We can be happy ever after. But now there's another 100. And there's always those 5% or those people who are going to obey the rules, which now will create more rules to everyone.
You actually put a very good number. Yes, approximately 5% of members of society, based on different scientific researches, are people who are not following the laws. Doesn't matter what kind of laws. The lighter the law is, more percentage, the more severe outcome, the less. Probably, I don't know, maybe 1% of people who are ready to commit a suicide, I don't know if it's correct or wrong. More people are highly likely will breaking the traffic rules at a certain point because they don't consider it with such a severe offense. But there are certain number of people who will not obey the agreements we have in society. And more complicated we get, more complicated the rules. What is the optimal number? Again, the optimal size of society, it can be actually calculated from two perspectives. One is how many of us can peacefully live in one village. Small as a village, we can leave our doors open, bicycles outside, because we know highly likely nothing happened. Tartu, with a suburbs approximately 100,000, it's still more quiet than Tallinn. When you spoke about the number of homicides as a young police officer in 90s, I remember we had in 1995 365 homicides in Estonia, in small Estonia, 365. Now we have less than 20 every year. Does it mean that society is better? Yes, in certain sense. But does it mean that we can exclude possibility that the number of homicides will raise? No. Now we have several things in place. The number of police officers in 95 was 2,000 more than today. So we have less police, but more security. Controversial. At the same time, we still have some homicides. We have more people than we had before the World War II. We have 1,300,000 now in Estonia. We have 1,100,000 before the World War II. But now we come to the other point. How small the society can be to provide sufficient level for products, sufficient level of services. Because by economical standard,
someone has done this calculation.
Yes, I've heard that it's someone around 10 million when we can say the country can function more or less. Estonia is 1,300,000, but we still value it. Iceland with only 300,000 people and still have universities, police, governmental system, education, everything else.
Resources will make it more equal, or give you more opportunity to make it equal.
Yeah.
And also knowledge, obviously, is the main.
But Germany, with 82 million people, has still run the same system: schools, justice, military, economical requirements, courts, roads, infrastructure, as Estonia. The scale is different, but the number of things you have to do on the list still the same. So from economical perspective, is it reasonable to have Estonia as a state? Someone can ask that. But now, well, the values come in place because we have certain values which we value more than financial numbers. Again, it's a leadership decision. Which is more important, economical reasons or values? In this case, of course, I say values. But are we ready to invest in the number of police officers who will guarantee that there is no crime on the street? Like, we have 4,000 police officers all around Estonia right now, and we say, no, we still have 30,000 different crimes. Shopliftings, thefts, beatings up on the street. Now we will increase this number 10 times. And we have, on every corner of every street, we will have a police officer. Do we want this society? No, because it will take away my responsibility totally. I will act only because I don't want to be caught. I don't have like my personal why I'm behaving in this society. Where is the balance? If I don't have any police officer at all, then people who are not so strong members of society will start to feel insecure.
Yeah.
Now we come back to the balance.
We are fucked.
No, we're definitely not the fact. We need to find the balance. We have always what we also teach in our lessons, or we instruct our customers. There are actually two things: why we are doing it, and you have to be in a golden balance. Everything else, all the principles and mindset, actually comes after two of it. Understand the why, and now when you want to achieve the why, please think, do you really want to achieve it in this way? If you actually can answer those two things, then more or less 4 laws of combat and mindset will come after that.
So I think it really resonates here in this topic when I say that Neil deGrasse Tyson has a quote that the challenge of life is not to know enough to think you're right, but not enough to know you're wrong. The challenge of life is to know enough to think you're right, but not enough to know you're wrong.
Again, is it always so?
Well, it depends on how philosophical you want to be.
You know for yourself what is the right behavior with your wife, with your kids, with your family. And you have agreed with your close one, at least with your wife, that, hey, that is a standard which is a right for us.
So, and now, is there a possibility that I'm seeing the world totally wrong way, and that's not the meaning of life, or whatever? Is there a slight chance? Because I could tell you, has there been instances where you as a person have been totally sure that this is the right way how to act?
Of course.
And now if time goes on, you understand that, fuck.
Of course.
Because I didn't know better.
Of course.
So that's what that's the challenge, what it kind of means, that if I think that I'm right, but if I knew more, I would clearly understand that that's not the right decision.
What I wanted to say, but there is also a lot of examples where I thought it was the right thing to do. I acted and I'm still convinced it was. So that's why I asked it, is it always so? Of course, one Greek philosopher once said that after I've been, so educated and I know so much that I know that I know nothing.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, I mean, there's on a personal level, in some aspects you can actually say that, but if you think about all the other aspects of life where you are not an expert, where you haven't done your research, like let's say medicine.
Medicine, yeah.
Let's just say law, like I just believe you. I haven't done you just are telling me so compellingly about all the laws.
Okay.
And
let's go to the medicine.
But you could totally bullshit me on some aspects,
sure.
And your interpretation is different or whatever. So I believe you. That's right. But if I were I don't know, a smarter lawyer, then I would say, hey, that's bullshit. Yeah, because actually it's written like this.
Yeah, and then we can argue: do we understand correctly what one interpreted from the written text or another? Of course. There are certain things where we have to trust, and that's part of relationship. We have to trust the experts. Now, losing a trust, it's very easy. If I misinterpret it's in the basic things, And Jonathan, wait a minute, but that's so basic in your area of expertise and you didn't know that. After that, to regain your trust would be very hard for me because, wait a minute, you were wrong in a very basics. How can I trust you that you put enough time to improve yourself, to be honest enough to say, hey, Remo, actually, I read in and, I was bluffing. It was not like this. I'm sorry. It's actually like this. Now, when I'm not competent enough and not confident enough to confess you, hey, that was wrong, admit it, I think you would not trust me. The same with a doctor. We all can make mistakes, especially in the medical field where it's a time pressure, it's a very urgent. The doctor is also a person, physical person, human being. He or she can be wrong. Now, when he or she starts to say, hey, no, it was, fault of this medical product, it was fault of a nurse, it was fault of whatever. Not like, hey, yes, in this critical situation, I had to make a decision. I was not competent in this field, but I took a risk. I would give this doctor a second chance. But the doctor who will say, hey, no. I took away your wrong tooth, but that was not my bad. Not I did not check. That's actually the correct tooth. That's a nurse who prepared the operation wrongly. I would never go to this dentist anymore.
So it's all about if you want to ruin an organization, break their trust or do something to. Yeah, that's why it's the law number one, right? It's the tool to teamwork is relationships. Part of relationship is having trust. If you break the trust between the citizens in the country, if you break the trust within the people in your company, I don't trust you, we can't trust each other because there is such a load of bullshit. That's the beginning of the end.
And that's why the legal system is very important, because when the country starts to break apart, like we see unfortunate examples in South America or Middle East, people start to lose trust that someone neutral, as a judge, as a representative of the judicial system, can solve the dispute. We don't have to agree on everything in society. It's not possible. Like in communism, we cannot equal everyone. Mm-hmm. But we have to trust someone neutral who can come with no emotions and say, okay, you're arguing who actually paid the equal or good price for the house. You have this argument. I have analyzed, I have looked at our legal acts. I think you are right this time. Now, when this lawyer will justify it in a simple and a good and a sympathetic way, even to the person who lost the case, and he said, okay, I don't like the outcome, but I accept it because, then this legal system will stay and people will not take justice, like they interpret justice, in their hands. When people start to take justice, lynching people on the street or taking away the property because it's unjust why he has free cars when I'm starving on the street, that's a way where it's the most important. You have to put the people that the decision, especially arbitrary decision, judicial decisions, they are just. Even if you are not winner in the case, and it's not possible to do if you don't respect even the party who lost. You have to gain respect and trust. Then people start listen, even if the court decision, it's not what you expected, but at least you understood why judge decided like this.
So if you want to raise or have within the span of time, I guess it's very clear, you just need to educate, because these thoughts, you need to be able to think. You have to be able to raise the average, IQ of a country consistently, so that the people will start thinking. So, because that requires thinking to get to the understanding that, hey, I have to build trust, and all the other stuff what we have talked about. So, what's your conclusion? What would you? Because it's a interesting topic. What's your overall conclusion of all of it, what we talked today?
About this truth and justice.
Yes.
First of all, always think that someone else, at least in the beginning, might have different sense of justice.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to explain your position, especially if you are in the position who has to implement certain decision, or do it in a way that the person who you address this will feel respected. Don't take this human dignity. Doesn't matter that he or she is maybe not so experienced, educated, whatever, but keep the personal dignity. Even if he or she has, I don't know, breaking the law, agreement, committed a crime, he or she still deserves a dignity. Dignity is the first, because dignity is a opening key for respect. Even the harshest criminal has a right to be dignity. And I really love that Estonian law underlines the theory because it's part of the value. And don't be a robot. Implementing a legal decision, truth and justice, you have to be emotional, but don't make emotions capable, or don't create the situation where emotions will be closing your eyes on the facts. So be in balance. In this case, be in balance. Easier to say than implement, I know.
I would put it in all the things that you said are correct, and it reminds me of this this comedian Jim Jeffries, and he has this bit about like Bible is awesome. It says all the right things, the 10 Commandments, but it's too wordy.
Yeah.
And it should be one sheet of paper. And obviously, as he's an Australian, he has a different curse word, but pretty much what he said, just don't be an asshole. And if you're not an asshole, you should be good. So,
Yeah.
so I would try to summarize it in one word: don't be an asshole, because it's so easy to become one if you don't respect other people, if you don't actually listen to them. So the foundation is building good relationships and trying to think that other people are right, more right than you. Like that's your default mode. And know that if you go home and you can have the right facts, you can tell your wife about that these are the facts. Good luck in building a relationship. So is that justice? Is that justice? No, I don't know.
I know.
But I can definitely say that will not improve your relationship. So don't be an asshole. That's the headline.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's go to the Christmas party.
Thanks.